If you are watching this, that means that Master Control didn't step outside for a smoke break. The funniest political show on television is up next. All right. Takes a little work, but they'll get it. Welcome to a show where politics is a joke. It's PoliTicKIng, and I am your host, Tony King. We thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I'm wearing, of course, my black suit in honor of Black Friday. No, that's not why. I ate too much for Thanksgiving, and this black, I hope, makes me feel slimmer. And I didn't even have to do it that time. But the news doesn't stop just because we celebrated a holiday. Oh, no, no, no. So we have to kick things off like we always do every episode with the Seriously Unserious News Report. Last week, during a Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee hearing, tensions rose during a discussion between Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin and the president of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien. That's his name, actually, Markwayne. Though the exchange took place in the halls of the Senate, the beef actually started on Twitter, now known as X, back in June. As the tensions rose, Senator Mullin said, quote, "Sir, this is a time and this is a place. You want to run your mouth? We can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here." Quote, "Okay, that's fine. Perfect," O'Brien said. "You want to do it now?" Mullin replied. "I'd love to, right now," O'Brien said. "Then stand your butt up." You stand your butt up," said O'Brien. First off, why does their exchange sound like the most responsible softcore porn ever? We're two consenting adults. You want to do it? Right here, right now? Stand your butt up. Secondly, when did the Senate turn into the Waffle House? They ain't supposed to be fighting like that. Now, what you may not know is that Senator Mullin is a former MMA fighter. We are voting MMA fighters in now? Well, that means we are just one presidential cycle away from President Ric Flair. That's it. That's his campaign slogan. Woo! Side note, I'd probably vote for a President Ric Flair. See, they know that. Don't judge me. Wasting my vote. Speaking of going fighting, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors was suspended 5 games when he tried his best to reenact the choking scene from Baby Boy with Minnesota Timberwolves center Rudy Gobert. The only bad thing is that he didn't let Rudy know he was in on the scene. Draymond must be a method actor. And in entertainment news, after having fans waiting more than 17 years, Andre 3000 released his long-awaited solo album. Many were left speechless because his album is actually speechless. Almost an hour and a half, not one bar on the entire album. It's mainly him playing the natural flute. Many music critics have described it as meditation music. I like to call it massage music, minus the happy ending. And now that Thanksgiving is past, it is officially time. Yep, Black Friday. Yeah. Or as I like to call it, buy a big-ass TV that I don't need because it's cheap day. And though regular people know it as Black Friday, plumbers across America know it as Brown Friday. Roto-Rooter said that on this day, it is the busiest day of the year, averaging more than 50% of their calls on an average Friday and 21% more calls than an average Thursday through Sunday. So this just goes to show you can't eat everybody's macaroni. In Louisiana news, it has just been announced that owner and founder of Raising Cane's, Todd Graves, has been named a billionaire with a net worth of $7.6 billion. 7 points on chicken tenders? When asked how he made all of his money, he responded by saying he saves a ton of money by not using seasoning. And that's going to do it for tonight's Seriously Unserious News Report. Stay tuned. We will be talking with founder and director of UpStage Theatre, Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner. It's PoliTicKING. All right.
We have got to find new ways to increase our revenue.
Sir, we can increase our revenue sales by enhancing our social media presence.
Yeah, so does anybody else have an idea?
We can clearly increase our revenue sales by enhancing our social media presence.
Great idea.
Has this ever happened to you?
Make a bold statement. Upgrade your wardrobe at Super Cool Fashions.
Thanks, Super Cool.
Super Cool Fashions located at 6180 Airline Highway.
What's up? This is your girl Megan Good, and I want to give a shout out to Mad Game ENT.
Welcome back to a comedy show that identifies as a news show. It's PoliTicKING, and joining me is the founder and executive director of UpStage Theatre, celebrating more than 20 years of entertaining Baton Rouge audiences. Give it up for Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner. You know, I enjoyed that. You know, Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner. I'm only saying that because, full disclosure, Dr. Turner, not only have I had the opportunity and privilege to be part of many of her productions, but she also has guided me along my thespian journey. So I've never called her by her first name. So Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner. Oh. You know, we old school. I gotta keep it. How you doing? Thank you for being here with us.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Now, more than 20 years of entertaining Baton Rouge audiences.
Yes.
Let us know how the journey of starting UpStage and bringing it to the Baton Rouge audience. Let us know where that journey started from.
It started from a need. When I relocated to Baton Rouge from Memphis, Tennessee here in 1985, there was no black theater.
The 1900s?
1985.
Oh, wow. Oh.
There was no black theater, so there was a need. So I actually started UpStage in my living room. I was a part of the 4th District Baptist Association at that time, and I was doing all of the shows for the summer conferences. And so out of that grew, let me get something more. Let's do a little bit more besides just the summer shows for the conference. So there was a need for black theater in Baton Rouge, and so when I formed UpStage Theatre Company, my vision was that we would go on into the next century and years and years and years, and we would flourish.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
21 years later.
21 years. That's still more than 20.
We're going into 22.
Exactly.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Now, you are beyond just a normal theater fan that most people would be. You have like actual theatrical training. That's what your degrees are in.
Absolutely.
You have added to academia, of course, by earning a doctorate.
Yeah.
So along that journey, and you saying meeting that need, I'm sure there were obstacles that came about in which people were saying, well, you say that there's a need, but is there really a need for black theater here in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because black theater is, as Dr. Du Bois says, theater by us, for us, near us, and about us. And no one can tell our stories but us.
Now, with the evolution of black theater,
Yes.
because we can go, you know, as far back as
slave trade.
As slave trade.
Absolutely.
Through, you know, the Harlem Renaissance, through, you know, the 50s, 60s civil rights era,
Yes.
you know, like you said, the late 1900s. But
1800s.
well, I was talking about now, the 1985 when you started.
1985,
So
okay.
the interesting thing that I've seen is the evolution from telling the stories to almost kind of being marginalized to how those stories are told. It almost kind of seemed like some of the productions that we see are almost one-sided, the ones that receive the mainstream notoriety. Do you see that in terms of like maybe a stepping away from a Lorraine Hansberry to more of a, you know, to where it's a serious production, to having more of the comical slapstick kind of. Do you see that evolution happening within the theater community for Black audiences?
You know, we say that history repeats itself.
Yeah.
And you know, early on we started with slapstick, if you will, because during slave trade, when the slave ships would dock, then the slaves would get off and they would perform. And that's where we started with the shucking and jiving, because that's what they would do, and oftentimes to save their own lives. So that developed on into 1821, when William Brown opened a tea garden in Greenwich Village in New York. And he would have people to come over and read poetry and do improv. And it grew from there on into the African Grove Theater, where you actually had legitimate theater, if you will. So the first thing that I learned in Theater 101 was in playwriting, you write about what you know. And that's why no one can tell our stories but us, because our stories are stories that we've lived. So at UpStage, you know, Tony, we always say we take it from the page to the stage.
Yep.
So our stories are stories about our lives, about our families, our grandmamas and grandfathers. We've taken a turn because now it's about the quick dollar.
The dollar.
And absolutely, everybody, I mean, you know, I'm not doing this for free. I think I'm probably the only person that does that. And that's because it's my passion.
It's a love. Yeah.
It's a love.
Yeah.
It's what I love to do. But you know, I want to reach this particular audience, and I think our focus have gone directly to that. And if we don't include certain subjects, then we're not going to stage it, or we're not going to film it, we're not going to produce it. We've got to bring in this element, or we need to bring in that element. And then again, I think we're pushing away a large portion of our audience, because I think it has now become so one-sided.
Yeah.
Just last summer, when I was teaching a class at Southern, my theater class, and I was talking to them about being persistent and not giving up. So I was making all, you know, using analogies. And so I said, you know, don't give up, you know, be like Dorothy, you know. And they were like, who's Dorothy? I said, okay, you know, the Wizard of Oz. And they were like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. The Wiz, Mike. So I had to actually show them the movie.
And
so
they'd
never heard of the Wizard of Oz.
Wow. And that's a classic. Well, you know, that's notable.
And that's what I did in my classes. I was showing them the classics. You know, Lorraine Hansberry, Raisin in the Sun. The Dutchman, Leroy Jones. And so I wanted them to understand there's something other than Tyler Perry. You know, and so oftentimes I think that our audience have gone one-sided, even with Netflix and Hulu and Tubi and all the others.
You said Tubi? You watch Tubi?
I do, because I do. Because I like to see, because I like to see across the board. You know, and I'm scratching my head sometimes saying, wow. And you know, and I know you remember Antoine. Antoine used to tell me all the time, he said, you know, Dr. T, I can't look at a movie or watch a play anymore because of what you're talking, because now I'm hearing things different and I'm seeing things different, and we're picking it apart, as you did as well. So once you learn and you know, you can sit and say, okay, well, why didn't this plot take it in this direction? Or why didn't we go? So now I really think that Black theater, depending on who's presenting it, it's kind of one-sided, because I think all of our topics have gone to comedic. Everything, it's comedy. And you know, we need to kind of get back to our stories and telling our stories.
So it's interesting that you say that, because you know, UpStage Theatre Productions, and this is not a shameless plug, they actually cover a wide variety of topics.
Yes, we do.
And I know that from experience.
Absolutely.
And even though you say audiences may only want comedy, you know, there's a way that there can still be some level of serious production and still have its comedic moments. And I've had an opportunity to experience that in several productions. August Wilson, 7 guitars.
Absolutely.
And so, you have an upcoming production in which you'll be showcasing some of that coming soon.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
December 2nd and 3rd, we have a 3 p.m. matinee and a 7 p.m. show. It's Ebony Scrooge. And if you know the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, this is Ebony's story. Ebony is a bad mamma jamma. So, you of course know that because you had an opportunity to be one of the ghosts.
Yeah, I actually played 2 roles in that production.
Yes, you did. You had to do a role, and you did a fantastic job. So
say that again.
You did an awesome job.
There we go. There we go.
Awesome
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
You did an awesome job. So the show runs December 2nd, 3rd, and December 10th.
Yes.
Right here at UpStage Theatre Company, located at 1713 Wooddale Boulevard.
And if they want to purchase tickets, they can always
go to our website at upstagetheatre.biz, B-I-Z.
There you go. So please make sure you check it out. It's a wonderful production. I'm not just saying it because I had the opportunity to be in it, but it is a great production. You can bring the entire family.
Absolutely.
Upstagetheatre.biz. Check it out. December
2nd, 3rd, and 10th.
There you go. We'll have more right here with PoliTicKING. We'll be back.
Phoenix Air Spa provides its customers with a soothing environment, incomparable professional services, and extraordinary results. Relax, recharge, and re-emerge anew at Phoenix Air Spa, always aesthetically you.
And now, welcome back to a show that may or may not air on Fridays or Wednesdays. It's PoliTicKING. Now, finally, political season is behind us, and all of the votes from the runoffs have been counted. And pollsters and political analysts have learned one major thing. Louisianians don't vote for According to Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin, the chief overseer of all elections in the state, roughly 22.4% of the registered voters turned out to vote. That's down from October's gubernatorial election in which 36.3% of registered voters came out to vote. So seeing such low turnout leaves me asking one question. Where is all the get out to vote money going? I mean, every year nonprofits get millions upon millions of dollars to mobilize voters in efforts to turn out the electorate. You have organizations that specialize in this. So why then are voter turnouts here so low? Over the past 10 elections, presidential elections excluded, Louisiana has not had more than a 46% registered voter turnout. And that was in last year's all-important midterm election. So where's the money going? And it doesn't just stop at these organizations either. Political consultants are out here getting it, charging an arm and a leg and not doing the work. You have some that make these large promises to political parties and candidates, but not delivering. Now, you may say, Tony, just leave them alone. And I say, you know what? You're right. I mean, hey, anybody can win, but it takes a real political consultant to take your money and tell you to ignore a whole voting block in your district. I mean, how done is that? Ignore a whole voting block? Again, where is the money going? Now, I may be wrong, but in the real world, if you paid to do a job and you intentionally don't do it, that's called theft. But I guess in politics, it's called being a political strategist. So I'm about to change my career and start charging $25,000 per client. Because I'm a strategist. It's PoliTicKING. We'll be back.
Phoenix Air Spa provides its customers with a soothing environment, incomparable professional services, and extraordinary results. Relax, recharge, and re-emerge anew at Phoenix Air Spa, always aesthetically you.
I caught you. Welcome back to a show that is sad that CVS is closing many locations in the Baton Rouge area. Because where else am I gonna get a long ass receipt that I'm gonna throw away? It's PoliTicKIng, and as promised, we are here with my guest panel. Joining us, we have former MTV2 VJ, host of You Know Talk Show, and the founder and executive director of one of the largest youth organizations for girls here in Louisiana, soon to be the whole globe, the Outstanding Mature Girls, and also one of my dearest friends, Sashika Baunchand. Also joining us is an assistant professor of political science at Southern University who has an interesting new class next semester exploring the intersection of hip hop and politics. My good frat brother as well, Dr. Eugene Lee-Johnson. Oh, I feel like this is the family issue. This is the family episode. So, I want to jump in real quick because it is PoliTicKIng, and Dr. Lee-Johnson, you are a political science professor. We talked about the low turnout in my previous segment. And it's one thing that's kind of interesting to me is that it seems like the turnout continues to get lower and lower and lower. Many people say, oh, it's homecoming, or they have these other excuses. But in your field of study, what do you believe that low voter turnout can be linked to?
So those extracurricular activities like homecoming only affect a small amount of people. So when you're thinking about voter turnout, the first thing that people think about is education. And that's not voter education, even though there's no such thing as an educated voter. We're talking about actual K through 12 collegiate education.
There's no such thing as an educated voter.
No such thing as an educated voter.
Stupid.
We're all stupid. And the reason that is the saying is because the information that you receive at 5:30 when the news comes on isn't the information that's going to be available at 6 o'clock. So because there's always changing information, we're all ignorant to something. So there's no such thing as an educated voter.
I thought it was because when I walk into the booth, I don't understand what those amendments be saying. I'd be like, I know I can read, but what do you not like the not liking of the likes of the next like?
That is purposeful. So it is a good joke, but it's purposeful because the reason is when you're thinking about voter suppression, one of the things, going back to me saying education, if people do not understand what I'm saying, what they're voting for, if the language is not accessible to them, they will not feel like going out to participate. And so when you go into the conversation of should it be voter turnout, why is it so low, you realize a lot of the organizations that you speak of focus their money on voter registration. But registration isn't necessarily the issue. So why are people not turning out? A lot of people will say that's political apathy, and that could be a correct answer. A lot of people will say it's anger. That can also be a correct answer. But I think when you think about voting, especially we have a presidential election coming up, and this connects directly to Louisiana because we did just have a group of MAGA Republicans basically be able to gain power within the state. And so this connects directly to the national politics because Louisiana has off-cycle elections. Off-cycle elections means there's not a midterm or a presidential election connected to it, which means people are less likely to go out and vote in those elections anyway.
So the odd year elections.
The odd year elections. So you can see we had 46.7% around, give or take
for a midterm.
For a midterm. And we never actually exceed that number. Normally, I'm actually surprised that we reached 22% on the runoff elections because it's normally between 14 and 17.
Well, I'm gonna say this: some of the areas actually had as low as 9%, and so when you think about that, it's like okay, and it's not just our communities. We like to say, it's our communities, but it's also in predominantly white communities. It's predominantly Hispanic communities. It's all communities. It's a universal thing. You said something that was kind of interesting, and you said that now statewide, you said MAGA Republicans kind of identifying as those who are hard right, kind of aligned with Trump nationally. But one thing I found interesting is that in 2008, almost all of the statewide offices were held by Democrats. We had a governor, we had all of our senators, with the exception of one, that were Democrats. like, that's interesting that in such a short period of time that we've kind of taken such a hard right turn. Now, we were talking about the whole get out the vote efforts, and I know that the Outstanding Mature Girls, you all do a lot of things in terms of getting these young girls active, involved, and letting them know about the political process. What are some things you all did?
Well, I mean, just recently, as we were planning our camping trip with the girls, we made sure...
Wait, y'all take them camping?
Yeah. We were intense, yes.
Okay, all right.
And
like
so,
real camping?
Like real camping.
Like they set up a tent and... Like white people camping?
You pitch a tent, yes.
I just want to make sure it wasn't like they in a cat, like it's a real, okay.
We were intense.
I'm with that.
And so prior to that, I know our operations coordinator just made sure, Dana, made sure that, you know, the parents and the girls who are of voting age knew that just because we're going on a camping trip, you know, this is what's going on that particular day as well. Make sure you go and vote, and just knowing the importance of voting. And even our parents came in on the mix and just kind of sending reminders all throughout about going to vote. So we want to make sure that the youth that who are in our program, they are informed, you know, voters, and they are. We have our talk show where the girls, they get to talk to politicians.
I've seen it. They talked to Congressman Troy Carter. They just had a session with Ben Crump. So, you know, I'm aware of that. But you talked about, you know, it's beyond just political apathy. So what are some other factors then? Because it seems universal that everyone is kind of feeling the same thing.
The major factor is always going to be people feel like there's not something that is materially changing their communities. That's the basis of it. People feel like if I go to vote, I still wake up poor the next day.
So then what do we expect from voting in?
It's who you're voting for.
That's what I'm saying. The things are materially changing, but it may not necessarily be somebody handing you cash.
I think of it like this. Local elections are always more important.
Right.
Local elections will always be more important. However, because most people participate in a presidential election, they don't actually pay attention to the things that are impacting them on the ground. And so if you go out into a community and you ask people, I always explain voting like a relationship. You know,
it's toxic, and then y'all hurt each other, and then you keep messing with them until they finally stab you, and then you got to get a restraining order, right? Huh?
Basically.
Oh, okay. I know all about them kind of politics.
You know, but when you think about
more
it,
than you know.
The big conversation the last couple of days nationally is why is Joe Biden losing support from marginalized groups and young voters? And the reason is he gave us a lot of promises and we felt like none of them were fulfilled. Now the thing is, that's not all Joe Biden's problem. But because we are not intelligent, understanding what the political process is, because we are ignorant to it, we just fall into whatever the media gives us. It's framing.
Yeah.
You understand
propaganda.
that. It's propaganda as a broadcast.
Yeah.
And so going back to thinking of it like a relationship, people constantly blame voters for the turnout. And there's always some personal responsibility there with everything. There's always personal responsibility. However, why do the institutions that continually leave people left behind get to go off into the sunset without any blame?
Okay. Now you say left behind. What do you mean by left behind?
I mean, we have structural racism that impacts people not only in Baton Rouge, but globally. And when you think about it like that, if I actually pull you into the numbers and you can understand what Larry Bardo says in his 2010 book, Unequal Democracy, under Democratic leaders, whether that be mayor, governor, president, in executive office, black people and marginalized groups are more likely than not to have better opportunity, better infant mortality for black women when they're going through childbirth, less people going to jail. So the smart decision is to elect Democrats. However, even with Democrats in office, you find that the numbers impacting those marginalized groups never go into a positive direction. They're always low. They're always below average. So
and what's the name of this book again?
Larry Bartle's Unequal Democracy is a great book.
Okay.
And so he goes through the last 50 years.
I'm trying to buy it before Jeff Landry ban it.
Oh yeah, look, that is something that I've thought about greatly because I am a professor at a HBCU, and I want to make sure my students have a culturally responsive education, but also because I am a black male that grew up in Baton Rouge and I understand politics, I speak about these things from the angle that I have.
Yeah.
And so I think about how people attack things like critical race theory, which no one actually uses except in law school pretty much, even though I use it a little bit.
Well, you're a professor, you gotta use it.
I think about how my job can be affected. So I tell my students like, hey y'all, if I get fired next year, I just need y'all to go riot. joking.
But he's serious.
But truly, we see Louisianans trying to copy a lot of things that Florida is doing.
Yeah.
We had some of our Republicans go with the House Freedom Caucus to Florida late last year. Their question was, how are y'all doing this? And now
they want to run the same play here.
They want to run the same play here, and we're going to see it.
Well, and the thing that I think that you talk about, you know, becoming politically aware, I don't think it starts as an adult. I believe that we need one to start investing in our education, take the school board seriously.
Yes.
CEDO, we're coming, come here. We've asked. I'll be nice, I promise. We're gonna have fun. But no, to start investing more in education, we see with the educational budget that is being presented right now as we speak. But also too, it's gonna take some additional resources. Things like, you know, not to throw you in there, but actually what you're doing, you know, to be able to say, hey, you know, for these young ladies that we service all over the state, that we're starting to teach them about that political process. What are some things that you all can do?
Well, we were just contacted by a reporter, and we had an interview about the infant mortality rate and what do we do as a preventive measure with our young girls. Just in teaching them certain things of what's important, like when you get of age, you know, go to the gynecologist. If and when you become pregnant, make sure that you continue prenatal care and the importance of that, and make sure that you be an advocate for yourself and your unborn child.
Speak up. Yeah, you have to.
And so, you know, those particular things, and, you know, that reporter did her research and found that this is what our organization, you know, this is what we are. We teach our girls to be advocates. I mean, we teach them to be everything.
Yeah.
I mean, be all that you want to be.
Yeah. And I've seen them. They're outspoken, and that's the interesting thing that you know, we talk about young voters and things like that. You know, that Joe Biden may not be doing well with young voters, but and it's oftentimes just dismissive, like, oh, young people aren't going to vote, or we're trying to get the young people, and we believe that they're not as aware as they are. But they are being reached in certain situations like yours.
They are very aware of what's going on. If you sit down with these, and I'm just talking about the young girls that it's an OMG. If you sit down with these young girls and have a conversation, they know everything that's going on in politics.
Yeah.
They know everything as far as you saying Biden losing the younger population. Just because, you know, they can, just like a child kind of knows when somebody's not being genuine. Not being genuine. And so when it comes to political figures that may come within our organization or that they see, they pretty much know, and they have a voice as to where they want to make sure that this person is doing what they say that they're going to do for women. So they speak up for women's issues.
Okay, so that's interesting too, because one thing that I've seen, and anybody who's come in here and who's checked out the show, they know that I speak up about this chasm that we have developing, especially amongst black voters. And that is, you know, they're saying that, you know, you talk about how many people Joe Biden is losing. Black voters are turning to Trump, and it's mainly black men. And I've asked several people who've been here from DCCC strategists and leaders, and what is the thing that is turning black men away? And some of them have come up saying that the Democratic Party is leaning too far into solely women issues, not necessarily all of us not being able to walk and chew gum, not being able to say, okay, we're going to address these issues and these issues. It's just all these issues. And so I believe that some are not being, even mentioned about in terms of black men. And
sometimes I just feel that, when it comes to politicians and just, to me, you have to pretty much prove yourself. You have to prove yourself in many ways. You have to if you say you're going to do this, if you say you're going to take our girls to Washington, D.C.
Oh, man. Oh, y'all just don't know. We had fun politicking. It was real while it lasted. I just told you I'm trying to join, and you, oh my, finish.
So now you've lost trust.
She's speaking about a specific person.
You've lost trust, and
politicians in Washington.
And these are, just because don't push these youth to the side, because eventually they will become voting age. Yeah. And they will remember that. They will remember you.
So essentially what you're saying is don't make promises that you're not going to keep.
Don't make it to these young people. Don't do that.
It kind of reminds me of when my dad used to say he was going to come and pick me up on the weekend.
Exactly.
He never showed up.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, they're still waiting.
I'll be honest, I detest the talking point. Because if you actually look at the numbers, black women and black men are always the number 1 and number 2 voting blocks for Democrats. Mm-hmm. And so if we use Hillary Clinton, there's this story like, oh, black men are going to vote for Donald Trump. It was 94% black women and 86% black men. Now, when you start looking at evangelical Christians, it was 61%. When you start looking at white women, it was 53%. So all of these numbers are lower than black men and black women, but they create the competition between us because they hope that black men will say, you know what, they aren't catering to our needs, we're going to turn away. Now, in a patriarchal society, you're going to have certain men that are going to turn away anyway.
What word is that again?
Patriarchal.
Let me write.
Come on, man. But in a patriarchal society, you're going to have certain men who are misogynists, and they're going to turn away from politics that may center women anyway. That's just who they are in their nature. They suck. But for the most part, you're going to have black men and black women always supporting the things that are going to be better, not only for them, but for everybody else. So when people bring up that talking point, it kind of makes me angry because black men actually do their part. They're not all going to vote for Trump. And black women know that as well. But if the media tells you that these groups are turning away from each other, that there's a competition for resources, you then have that chasm that exists where now there's ability for somebody to come in, put some money to an ad and say, hey, black men, you know what Trump can do, right? You can do the same thing.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to talk about black men and black women coming up, and I don't know if this is the conversation we really want to have. But it's coming up, and I promise you, you don't want to miss it. Stick around. It's PoliTicKING, and we have more.
Advertising and operating a business go hand in hand. Mad Game Entertainment has a long, detailed history of working within clients' budgets and delivering big results. Mad Game helped launch the popular Go Vote app. We've been involved with several successful political campaigns. We assist the everyday marketing needs for small businesses and many other organizations. We custom fit marketing plans for the largest budget and the most modest. We look forward to enhancing your presence in your industry.
Take one, take two, take three. It's all a take. Hey, welcome back to a show that is still eating leftovers from Thanksgiving. It's PoliTicKIng, and we are here with our panel. Now, we were talking about men and women before we went to break. Men and women, men and women, men and women. I have to do it. I have to do it. Of course, we know the Diddy-Cassie situation. Not to get too far into it, but for those that don't know, it was alleged some very difficult to hear allegations towards Diddy: sexual aggression, sexual misconduct, rape, among other things. And there was a 36-page suit that was filed against him by his former girlfriend Cassie. And within a day, suit gone. The settlement was made.
He just went.
Do we have any thoughts? Like that. It passed fast.
You know.
I don't know.
Media.
Okay.
How media.
Yeah.
I'm talking as far as when it comes to media, you know, and what we see on the outside of the fourth wall, it looks to us like it was hush money. You know, they didn't say anything. They didn't say anything. However, you know, it may have just been some more things that they just had to sit down in discussion and was like, you know, let's.
Yeah, the discussion was how much. She stated how much, and but here's the thing. Here, you said it sounds like hush money. Is it really hush money? Like, is it really? Because here's the thing.
I'm sure those allegations.
They were
don't
heavy.
Just come out of thin air.
They were heavy. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. Those allegations did not shock me at all. I read all 36 pages of it, and some of it was trigger warning. If you have suffered any level of sexual assault, sexual misconduct towards your own personal being, trigger warning right now. But some of those things were pretty disturbing to hear. They were beyond just normal freaky. Like, you know, everyone has a right to privacy in their bedroom, but it was everybody's bedroom with some of those allegations. I mean, there was one allegation in which it was described Diddy would rent men to have relations with Cassie while he would film. That's wild if true. It's wild if it's not true. And so the thing is that, you know, clearly, regardless of whether these allegations are true, there was some hurt, physical hurt, committed towards Cassie. But my question is that I want to ask, and I cannot ask it. I cannot, forgive me for this. I'm only asking for conversation purposes. Does the money make the hurt go away?
No.
So
that's why no.
I think from like a legal standpoint, there's a lot of extra variables that exist here. So it was a civil suit that was filed.
Correct.
So regardless if it was settled or not, it was always going to be money involved. Next, you have to think about one of the allegations was trafficking. Once you get into trafficking, that is a federal crime.
Yes.
And so now you have the ability for someone to actually bring charges up on that. And so that creates another conversation where this situation may be overdue to the settlement, but the entirety of it may not be done for Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy,
Love.
Diddy,
Pit
Brother
Love,
whatever
Love.
the name is. And so
He sound like Brother Watts from the allegations.
I think that's important to understand, though, especially when you're getting into those. There's a difference between state and federal crimes, civil and criminal cases.
Yeah.
And now some of these things that exist in that civil proceeding that was filed,
They
could
can
be
be,
used as
yeah.
discovery in something else. And so the money's definitely not going to make the pain go away, because obviously she brought this up because she was feeling pain. And the thing is, a lot of people don't understand there was a Sexual Survivors Act that is about to actually expire. And so Diddy is the latest person to be accused under that act, but Mike Tyson also had a similar situation in February or March of this year.
Really?
And so allegedly, he sexually assaulted someone at the same time as Desiree Washington. You know, that's what he originally...
The 1992 case.
Yeah, and so this case is at the same time, but because this lawsuit, this act is about to expire, this is the last year that these people can actually mention these cases and bring justice to themselves.
Okay.
To have some type of comeuppance. And when I say that, I don't mean like getting money.
Yeah.
But I mean actually understanding some closure to the situation.
So the question that I have though, okay, so that's good to know, because a lot of people on social media are, you have two camps, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, that either camp is right or wrong, but I'm saying that you have one camp of, oh, it was a money grab. And then you have another camp that actually, you know, is saying what you're saying, the actual legal aspect of it and why it makes sense.
And I think it's okay to say one camp is wrong, you know? So the people that are saying it is a money grab, they are wrong. Because as we exist in this imperialist, patriarchal, capitalistic society.
Man, you use a lot of college words. You really are.
I have to.
A professor.
Of course. I got the degree to prove it, you know? But when we exist in this country under those systems, it is difficult for people, but especially women of color, to actually get their just due in all of these situations. Especially when you have intersectional identities and when you add hip hop on top of it, because hip hop has a certain way of marginalizing black women and women of color in general. It puts us into a situation where now...
Okay, now I have a question, because now we're about to veer off. And you talked about hip hop marginalizing women of color. What role, if any, do women of color have in their own marginalization?
There's always personal responsibility, just like with voting, like I said earlier. There's always personal responsibility. However, the way that we would talk about a Future versus the way that we will talk about Cardi B is totally different, even though their songs are about the same things.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why we talk about Future the way that we talk about Cardi B. The why there's the difference. Future has funnier memes, and that's the reason why. Future has way funnier memes.
I mean, that may be it. That may be it. However, it's like we have to understand that women, especially black women, they're going to be mistreated due to their intersectional identity.
So
they are woman and they are black. And in hip hop, they're also another minority because it is considered to be a male space.
Well, not anymore. Right now, women are running hip hop.
As they should, because they're making better music.
Really?
They're making better music.
As you can tell, we have a crowd full of women.
So.
Wait. Better music?
Making better music. They're making better music.
I'm out of town, thugging with my round.
I'm a Christian influencer. I can't say
anything. Beat you to the punch. Go ahead.
Now, you know, if we want to talk about, you know, hip hop, you know, when Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, you know, these women were empowering
women artists in the late 1900s.
Yes. You know, those, as far as like, you know, marginalizing themselves, you know, they were queens, you know, they are queens, and they set the standard as far as, you know, how women, you know, should and could be when it pertains to hip hop. I don't know what happened between the Queen Latifah's MC Lyte to
now, MC Lyte did say she want a roughneck.
You know, I just don't know. However,
I'm gonna tell you what happened.
I feel that radio.
Why'd you point at me though?
Plays a big part in those particular issues. When it comes to, you know, to all of that stuff, because just like with anything, with Bluey comes on at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you wonder why kids like Bluey. I mean,
Bluey the cartoon.
It's the only thing that's on at that particular time. So with radio, you know, you're hearing these artists continuously on rotation, and you're hearing them, and you know, that's something that hey, I think I like this song. I think I like, what she's saying. I think I want to thug with my rounds, out of town, whatever.
You want to go to Pound Town.
Yeah, I mean, so, you start hearing that, and that's the only thing that you have to listen to, whereas people from the early 1900s, we have other artists.
Not the early 1900s. You talking about jazz. We talking about the late 1900s.
Late 1900s. So we have those artists that we can still, we can listen
essentially
to.
What you're saying, essentially what you're saying is that there was balance.
Yeah.
You had balance of artists. You had balance. I'm gonna tell you what happened in terms of hip hop, and too much money got involved. Mm-hmm. And once it started to break out outside of where it was for us, by us, to become this global entity, it started to become a situation where it's like, okay, we're going to play to the lowest common denominator. We're going to, it's a factory of sorts. It's McDonald's.
Well, speaking of McDonald's, Ice Spice. So,
What, did she used to work at McDonald's?
Well, I mean, the mascot? I don't know. But, where did these, ladies come from? I'm sure they may have been rapping in the basement, wherever. But I think that, we are given these women, and as far as, this is what I feel black women need right now. They need the sex.
I don't think it's about what they need. I think it's about what.
But they're giving that to
those
girls.
But here's the thing: they would not sell it to you if you didn't buy it.
So I think there's a few things here. So one, I think both of you make a point that combines to a major thing. Mm-hmm. And
you can say I'm right. It's okay.
No. This connects to politics greatly. Mm-hmm. You think about programming. Mm-hmm. Programming in general is putting something on and make sure people are paying attention to what that is. They are being programmed to think something is existing in a certain way.
Yeah.
That's just like political framing. It's the same exact thing. If we play this political ad over and over and over, it ultimately becomes like the old Eddie Murphy movie, The Distinguished Gentleman.
Yeah.
Jeff Johnson, the name you know.
The name you know.
Because that's all you know. You keep saying it over and over.
Yeah.
And so when you start to get into these situations, hip hop and music in general often mimics our society.
Yeah.
It operates at a parallel time frame. And so as we've gotten out of third wave feminism and moved into fourth wave feminism, one of the things
we moved from third to fourth?
Yeah,
how many levels is it?
I think we're on level 4, level 5 right now. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We changed a long time ago.
Okay.
But the fact is, a lot of women and society in general are focusing on sexual freedoms. Whereas in the early 90s, when you would have a lot of Afrocentric artistry in all of the rap music and all of the R&B. Like we had entire genres of neo soul or backpack rappers and stuff like that. And so now, because of the commercialization, you've gotten away from that. And so what I find, and I see this with my students all the time, is you'll have someone like Ice Spice, for example, they'll just get famous off TikTok. If you have a TikTok sound that goes famous, now you got a record deal.
Yeah.
There's no artist development involved.
Yeah.
There's no actual thought process except we got to put you on stage as soon as possible to make money off of this microwavable music.
For as long as we can.
For as long as we can.
About a year. And then after that, we'll get another one. And it's an assembly line.
And it's an assembly line. And so that goes with the influx of cash into hip hop because we don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, once again, all of this is connected, even when we go back to politicking with Tony King.
Oh, nice throwback. I love it. I love it.
The
Checks
influx,
in the mail.
oh, thank you.
Don't cash it till Tuesday.
I got a 1 year. I need it. All right. We got an influx of money that is being pushed around to make sure certain people getting certain visuals.
Yeah.
And so in politics, that'll be black men versus black women. In politics, that will be, we will get an influx of police brutality on TV. In politics, you will see us move away from having political correspondents to having rappers and radio hosts saying, hey, I'm Charlamagne the God.
Oh, this is a show of shots today.
It's one of those things where you have people who actually shouldn't be talking about this and educating our population being the main people with microphones in their face.
But Tony King should be talking about it because it's politicking with Tony King. Hey, we appreciate our panel for hanging out with us. We got to put a pin in the discussion, but we can go on and on. We're definitely going to have our guests back. Hey, I see why now you had the hip hop and politics course. Thank you for joining us. Sashika, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Stay tuned. We have the top 5 coming up, so you don't want to miss it. It's politicking.
If nothing else, it's been some mad game for you, homie. Holla.
Welcome back to a show where the audience is always on cue. It's politicking. Now, we just celebrated Thanksgiving, which is a time to share laughs and love and good food and fights. Whenever you have a group of folks together, it's always going to be some arguments and maybe some fighting, which brings us to tonight's top 5. Top 5 reasons your family got into a fight this past Thanksgiving. Number 5, because you messed up the macaroni. Now, you know you need a PhD in cheeseology to handle all that, but no, you just jumped out there and wanted to try that new recipe you found on TikTok. Now look at you, got a whole black eye, and Big Mama done cussed you out. You gonna learn next time. Coming in at number 4, top 5 reasons your family got into a fight this past Thanksgiving. You was rooting for the Cowboys. Seriously? 2023? Coming in at number 3, top 5 reasons you and your family got into a fight this past Thanksgiving. Cause you brought him over. Now, you done spent this past month complaining to all your family and friends, talking about how he done had a baby on you and gave you non-gonococcal urethritis. Now look at you. Walk in here just holding hands like nothing done happened. If you don't get out this house, and then had the nerve to grab a plate, oh no, he was asking for it. And you were too. Coming in at number 2, top 5 reasons you and your family got into a fight this past Thanksgiving. Cause you said we were eating at 2. It's 6:30. Talking about I'm about to put the rolls in the oven. We ain't fighting cause we angry, we fighting cause we hangry. And finally, the number 1 reason you got into a fight this past Thanksgiving, you jumped on the spades table and don't know how to play a lick of spades. You talking the board, you underbidding, you reneging. Nah, bro. See, I told you a few episodes ago, if you don't know how to play, don't jump on the table. Now we in the emergency room because you got a turkey leg stuck up. Never mind. But you brought it on yourself. And that's going to do it for tonight's show. All right. Special thanks goes out to Dr. Ava Brewster-Turner. Make sure that you check out the new stage play, Ebony Scrooge, at UpStage Theatre, December 3rd, 2nd and 3rd, and also with the encore show on the 10th. You can find out more at upstagetheater.biz. And also thank you to Dr. Eugene Lee-Johnson and the founder and executive director of the Outstanding Mature Girlz, Sashika Baunchand, and of course, the livest audience, the best. Y'all the best. My God. Boy, they get gooder and gooder every episode. Until next time, we out this thing.